What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about Lucid. The highly anticipated earnings is here. I want to go over some estimates, some things that you need to keep in mind, and what analysts have been recently doing. Before we get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid is down 2.7%. Absolute bloodbath in the broader market. So 270 the low, 290 the high. Pre-market, you did see a very nice run to roughly around $2.95 based on the volume. That clearly was not retail. That was some big money loading the boat. So I do feel during power hour a very similar scenario and chart will play out. So you'll have some FOMO leading into that, and that'll be a combination of big money buying as well as shorts. Right now, shorts are increasing roughly around 821,000 shares. 19.65% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 234.12 million shares. But despite them increasing, which they have been the last couple of days, piggybacking off of the broader fear, I feel like during the power hour, this is where they will start to return a little bit, as some individuals might be just weary of what might come from their earnings. And you can see that there is some level of some hesitation from shorts. They have been returning quite a lot over the last little bit. You can kind of see this a little bit better from this chart. So they have been returning. So again, given the fear in the broader market, they could have easily doubled down, but they're not, because I feel like there is a certain level of hesitation for their upcoming earnings. No actual news from Lucid itself, so it's just piggybacking off of the bloodbath in the market today. No real substantial data points coming out. Couple Fed speakers. You have Barr, which usually talks on regulatory things associated to banks, and then Barkin, which is at 12, usually fairly optimistic all in all for the most part. So we'll just have to wait and see how their speeches do play out. But aside from all of that though, moving over to here, I did bring this up I think a couple of videos ago. The implied move for their earnings is 15.16%. So roughly like a 41% move in either direction is anticipated. Ultimately, if we look over here and under this column, roughly 90% of the time Lucid does miss on their earnings, and the reasoning is like their future guidance. So this is really something I've stressed quite significantly over the last couple of videos, is that they need to really give very good future guidance. Earnings per share, revenue are all fine and dandy, which I think the market has been rather just brushing under the rug in Lucid's case. It's just been focusing on future guidance, and that's something that Lucid hasn't always been the greatest on. So they usually hint at, hey, we have partnerships, blah, 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 but give no additional context. So post earnings, most investors actually have more questions than answers. So it's very unsatisfying, and the market does not like gray. So this is why 90% of the time Lucid has missed. So this time around, I think retail is clearly had enough, and this is why the questions being posed by retail to management. I'm not going to give an update on that because nothing's changed, but that's why those questions are relatively more significantly, in fact, more difficult than ever before. So definitely a lot of high expectations. But as I mentioned, earnings per share and revenue, even though the market might be rather forgiving, you do see a little bit more bullishness coming from analysts. So earnings per share did go from negative 26 cents to negative 25 cents. So analysts became a little bit more optimistic on Lucid. Even for revenue, went from 208.3 million to 214.22 million. So could have been that recent rating by 𝗪𝗧, who gave a $1.13 price target. They could have technically still given relatively good earnings per share and revenue estimates, but it's definitely interesting to see analysts becoming a little bit more optimistic leading into their earnings. But aside from all of that fun stuff though, 341,000 in calls, 135,000 in puts, 70% of all the options being done today are bearish in nature. And of the call options that are being purchased, you see a consensus for it to be roughly like around that $3.50 to $4 range. And then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub 2. So a lot of volatility is anticipated. These are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So unfortunately, nothing but selling going on. So just piggybacking off of the negativity. And these are all the transactions that have occurred so far on the dark pool. So dark pool, as per usual, is fairly active. That is linked to shorting and other large entities. So let me know your thoughts on that. Right now with it at $2.70, it is trading between this pivot and this S1. So 261 is going to be that strong support, followed by 237. Like I said, that 41-cent move in either direction, that S2 could in theory be touched. That's if it's going based on the estimated volatility. Lucid usually is a little bit more volatile than that, but flip side, $3 and then 340 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. Moving over here, so no new analyst ratings the day before the earnings on the actual chart itself. So it did break below regrettably the 50-day moving average, and also right now below that 100-day moving average. So things have really escalated on the pullback quite significantly. So I don't think this is how a lot of investors did see going into Lucid's earnings playing out. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, and it did regrettably as well break below the super trend. So that does mean algorithmic trading is really working against Lucid. On a positive note, because of the recent pullback, has kind of reset the technicals a little bit. So the stochastic RSI is rather overdone. So if Lucid does put out some really kick-ass stuff from their earnings, then you could see a very nice run associated to that. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. This is a very quick overview on Lucid, just on some key things to really watch for. And then I'll be live streaming the earnings later today. So I think I put it for 15 minutes before the actual earnings itself. So it should be a fun time. I'll go over some of the tentative data, and then we'll all listen in to the earnings itself. So let me know your viewpoint. Are you buying before the earnings? Are you selling? Are you hedging with options? What are you doing? So give yourself a shout out in the comments below. One final thing, pop over to my Discord, completely free, link in the description below and also the comments. A lot of good people, a lot of good chat, and everything else that you need to know. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.